NordVPN isn't like the other girls. Hello, incognito mode videos now. Alright, so the schedule for this mini-series goes like this. We did the main channel on theater, then an incognito mode on painting, which is this. Then there's a main channel on wine, and then an incognito mode on a bunch of stories around wine. And there's a main channel on things that people wear. There's a main channel on luxury goods, and then we round the whole thing off with 2 more incognito modes. And then
he's going all the way with what do you call this? Just how people operate. And I'm assuming this is to do with just how we've evolved for these things throughout the years.
Then I go back into cryostasis.
Pretty cool.
This first section is on the basics of paint.
I'm assuming he wanted to do all of these in one video, but it ended up being way too big, I think is what happened.
2 more incognito modes. And then I go back into cryostasis.
I can see all of these being one video, but it would probably be like a 5-hour video.
Off with 2 more incognito modes. And then I go back into cryostasis. This first section is on the basics of painting, and we were a little bit worried to show it because we kind of felt like this will split the audience. Not because it's political or anything, but because it's so basic. So someone who already knows something about art would be like, yeah, of course, why are you telling me this? But for someone like me, who knows practically zero about art, I found it really interesting, and I thought, why the heck haven't I been told this before, right? So, first section.
All right, quiet on the set.
Basics of painting.
Action!
The arts. The arts. Do not put an F in front of that. Worst mistake I ever made in my life. Alright, first, some things that'll make you go, yeah, and? Or, oh, right. So look at this colorful goo. Paint. Delicious in both jam and chip form. But its raw components are just 2 essential things. An undissolving pigment
and oil.
And a medium. Now, pigments are basically just colorful dust. And the medium is the liquidy thing that the dust hangs out in.
So
now,
oil
the
paints
liquid
are with oil.
determines what type of paint you have. Pigment plus water equals watercolors. Pigment plus glue equals acrylics. Pigment plus oil equals oil paints. So simple.
I didn't know acrylic was for the glue.
Moving on. Now, plus oil equals oil paints. So simple. And pigment plus, moving on. Now, the pigment does not dissolve into the medium. Instead, it's just kind of suspended in it. When the pigment does dissolve into a medium, that's a dye. So that's the basic difference. Now, you have to transfer the paint onto the canvas. To do that, we need to talk tools. Well, first, you can just use your fingers. It was good enough for the cavemen, and it's good enough for your mom. So it's good enough for us. Then we tried brushes. Now, here is the anatomy of a brush. You've got the handle, the bristles, the ferrule, and the crimp. Now, the bristles are the most important bit. First, we were just using mangled up reeds called fronds, but they got really good once we started using animal hair. Have a look at some of the animals we used. Boar, taken from the neck or the back of the pig. That is the kind of brush that Van Gogh used. And
you guys know we have like a really bad hog problem here in North I don't remember where I heard this from, but apparently there's this YouTuber who was doing this like vlog style off the grid videos, and he went off the grid and he was just posting regular stuff, but then it slowly started devolving into him slowly going insane about how there are way too many hogs and that the hogs are coming and that they're gonna kill him. And I think at some point he died to actual hogs. The only problem was that he'd never showed the camera these thousands of hogs that he was complaining about. And so people were just brushing him off and that he was going crazy. But if you look into it, there's a lot of hogs in North America. They're an actual epidemic. They're a big problem. Kind of similar to how the Australians waged war against the kangaroos, except that we haven't waged war against hogs yet. Soon we will.
It's still the gold standard for
We'll get there at some point. It's gonna happen. Watch.
And it's still the gold standard for today. A goat brush. It's good, but it's not the goat. Lacks some spring.
Not the goat.
So it's mostly used for calligraphy. Badger. Now that's actually mostly used for shaving, not painting at all. Horse, raccoon, and wolf, also not great quality. But what's the worst quality of all? You know, the gutter oil of the brush world. Well, the worst quality is camel hair brushes, and they're mostly sold as arts and crafts brushes for kids. But the weird thing is, camel hair is so low quality that
Oh, so those camel brand stuff were absolute shit.
But the weird thing is, camel hair is so low quality that it's not even used in brushes at all. Huh? Yes, so-called camel
these
hair
things.
brushes
They
are
were so
actually made from
expensive.
cats and rabbits and squirrels. But that makes people kind of sad. So they changed the name to a much less cute animal and also one that's kind of exotic so you wouldn't question it. Now, what's the best
Virus.
brush of all? What is the S tier of brushes? Those are made from sable.
Oh my god, this, of course. 10 out of 10.
Now, sable is a type of weasel. These are hunted for their fur for clothing.
It's him.
Don't do it.
But when they catch them to make clothes, they actually only want the body for the clothes, and so they discard the tail altogether. But those tails have the best hair for paintbrushes, and so they are snatched up by the brush makers. Now, the hair is special because it has an interlocking scales that vastly increases the surface area, but it also holds strong in the long term. Firm and bouncy, but also soft.
It's smooth, it bounces, it moves. Only with new Tresemme Keratin Smooth.
And they sell for upwards of $300
Holy
a
moly.
brush.
$300 brush? My Steam Deck was $350. Jesus.
Alright, here's a top 10 list, sort of maybe Watch Mojo style, of the most famous paintings, and just a few interesting things about them that you may not know. Pop quiz, sports shoe wearer. Look at this painting.
That's
What does it make you
Jackson Pollock.
feel? Too late. Or if you answered in time, wrong answer. Happy, sad. I bet
Makes me
those are the
feel
only
nothing
two
because it's
emotions
just
you
him
even know.
throwing fucking paint
The
into a
correct answer
canvas.
is shame, because you are embarrassing yourself. You know nothing about the arts. So it is time to look at the best paintings to ever exist. And let's begin with the most obscure of them all. Whoever this is.
That was pretty good. That was a pretty good mid-roll. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation as to who the Mona Lisa is, because I don't think anyone really knows who the model was. Some say it's a self-portrait of Da Vinci, or like something like that to some extent. But who knows? Maybe she's just not a real person in the
This
first place.
is.
I do like the theory that it's a self-portrait though.
The Mona Lisa. Now, I thought it went first name Mona, last name Lisa. Check it out. But turns out Mona is an honorific, meaning madam, so it's Madam Lisa. Now, relatively recently, historians have figured out who she actually is, and they found out that she's married to a Florentine merchant, Francesco del Giocondo. So that makes her
Real?
Lisa del Gioconda, and that explains the alternative title of the work, La Gioconda. Now, the reason she has her arms crossed and is a little bit chubby is
Nice.
because she's pregnant. In fact, you can kind of see that
My
she's
info
wearing
is
a
outdated.
veil, and that particular type of veil was worn by pregnant women at the time. Her husband commissioned the painting when Da Vinci was already well known, so it would have been very expensive. And that makes it very funny for a couple of reasons. One, it was never handed over to the family. Instead, Leo left it in his will to his apprentice. And two, because for a couple of hundred years, the prevailing theory was that she was not an aristocratic wife, but instead...
Yeah, right here. You guys probably can't see it because my head's in the way. But there are also theories that the painting is Leonardo's mom or even Leonardo himself in drag.
wife, but instead a prostitute. Her hair being down and her almost absent eyebrows were common traits of working girls at the time. Anyway, why is this painting so famous? Well, Da Vinci was already pretty famous, and the painting got stolen. This became a very big news story, and her face suddenly started getting plastered on a whole bunch of newspapers and wanted posters, making her very recognizable. From there, she became the most famous painting, which is why she always looks so smug. Starry Night, Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah, I sure hope it does.
Painted while he was in the St. Paul de Musol Asylum. That's here. And this was the view from his bedroom window. Here is the real view a few decades later. He chose not to paint the metal bars.
Yeah, I think this painting was in the later years of Van Gogh. And I think as he got older, was it him or was it someone else? No, I'm thinking of Pablo Picasso. Never mind.
Window.
Never mind.
Here is the real view a few decades later. He chose not.
I think I'm mistaking my artist here. I think Picasso, as he got older, had dementia, and to track how his mind was deteriorating, he would paint these self-portraits, and as time went on, these self-portraits got more and more messed up. Is what was happening. Someone can double check that for me. If it was Go, then it was Van Gogh. If it was Picasso, it was Picasso. If it's someone else, then I'm dumb.
Not to paint the metal bars. Now, you can see that there are 11 stars in the sky here. Supposedly, that's reference to Joseph from the Bible. Joseph, he had a hard life. The minivan, he had a hard life too. And he hoped that he would be remembered at least once he was gone, like Joseph. And you know what? It worked out for him because everybody remembers Van Gogh and nobody remembers the guys who bullied him and called him a ginger. Also, there's kind of a theory that he was killed by some kid. Go check out Wendigoon's channel for more information on that one. Ah, the birth of Venus. Alright, let me tell you what's happening in this one. So, there's this lady, Venus. She is the goddess of beauty, and she is coming up out of the ocean in a big clam, right? Now, the clam is not a metaphor for her vagina. It's that she is the perfect pearl. Get it? Now, these two here are a divine wind. They are blowing her like a hot spoonful of soup towards the shore. And she is carried all the way over to the beach. And this beach, by the way, is a real place called Paphos. It's in Cyprus. Here is what it looks like in real life. Now, when she arrives on the beach, a nymph shows up, which is this lady here, and she has a cloak, and she throws the cloak over Venus, and she says, "You know what? You're very special. One day they're gonna name a 4-blade razor after you." Arrangement in black and grey #1. Also known as Whistler's Mother, most famous for its appearance in the Mr. Bean movie. Now, when Whistler's mother originally agreed to be painted, she agreed to be painted standing up, but she had to pose for so long that eventually she got quite tired and had to sit down. There you go. And that became the famous pose. The Garden of Earthly Delights. Alright, this one is probably my favorite because it looks like a Where's Waldo, and then the whole thing just goes completely off the rails. So, Mr. Hieronymus, that's a name that's going to make a comeback, is doing all of this cool surreal stuff about 500 years ago. So let's start on the left.
And I think these were like his depictions of what hell looks like or something. And this is where all of these like funny memes come out of, like this. Let me go back.
100 years ago.
Like this dude at the bottom here with the hat. and has other people inside him.
So let's start on the left. Here is Adam and Eve, and the pre-incarnation of Jesus. And they are all hanging out in the Garden of Eden. Now what's going on in the middle bit? That's harder to explain. The best theory is either that this is Eden if people were allowed back into the garden, or if they had never left in the first place, or if man had not committed original sin. But look at the size of that strawberry. Oh, here he is. Then on the right-hand panel is hell.
That's hell.
Or at least a very bad time. This is where Oddlaw would end up, that son of a bitch. Right, now, here's the interesting bit. It's not painted on a typical canvas. It's actually a sort of cabinet thing with 3 panels called a triptych. And the neat thing is, if you close the doors, more painting. That is the earth, and that is the firmament. A perfect balance between flat earth and globe theory. A perfect balance.
This reminds me of that one Giger painting for an album that he did for this British band. I don't remember the name, but it was like you could open and close it, and if you close it, there's like a dick coming into her mouth or something. Because the concept was a fellatio. What was that? HR. Let me find it so I can show you guys. For those who don't know, H.R. Giger is this guy who designed the xenomorph in Alien. You know, the alien with the long head. It's all black. It's slimy. It opens its mouth and it has a smaller mouth inside it that sticks out. That thing. He made that thing. Don't know if this is safe to show on on YouTube, but yeah, this is his stuff. And one of his concepts for an album was kind of like that, like triptych thing where you could like open and close it, and it would have like a different image if it was opened. Let me find H.R. Giger album cover. This one. I found it. This thing. Yeah, this you know, this pipe here at the bottom, it's supposed to be a penis, and that like little light in the ring is supposed to be like the head of the PP. But they toned it down because, you know, them records don't like that. Yeah, and then if you open it up, it looks like, let's see if the picture's in here. Don't think the picture's in anywhere. But yeah, you can open this jacket and it'll have like a lady in there with weird hair that looks like tentacles.
Painting.
Moving on.
That is the earth, and that is the firmament. A perfect balance between flat earth and globe theory. A Sunday afternoon on the island of La Grangette. This thing is pretty big, and here's the real-life place it was painted after. Although they've beautified it even more with the office building at the back. What you may not know is that it is actually a sequel. First, George Seurat painted the left bank, and that's where all the working class sit. You see these guys that, you know, have a bit less money and stuff.
They're naked. They're poor.
This is the one that you all know, and that is on the right-hand bank. And all these people are a very bougie sort. That is Scrappy-Doo. And that's a monkey. The Last Supper. Okay, so the scene is this. All the disciples are gathered around, and this is the exact moment that Jesus declares, "Hey, by the way,
You will die."
I know one of you betrayed me." And this is everyone's shocked reaction to the news. Except there's one guy who's just pretending to be shocked. And here is who everyone is. I thought this was Mary, by the way. Turns out that's John. Very progressive. And that's all of the paintings, and no one has attempted one since.
Yeah, I remember I grew up in a Christian household, and we had a recreation of that painting hang over one of the walls in the kitchen, and I always wondered why there was a woman in the picture. If that's actually John. Okay, I didn't know that. Also, I think when I went in my elementary school was also a Christian school, so I think at some point they wanted us to like memorize the apostles from this painting, and that was some shit for that was a weird thing to ask for a 10-year-old in second grade.
And I wake up. Quickly, flip the Nord logo, Marianas Trench. Flip it the other way, 3 pyramids. He's solving the mysteries. There's not
Did they
much
build
time.
the
I gotta
pyramids,
log into
guys?
NordVPN so the corporations can't track me. Marketing companies gang stalking me, listening to me through the walls.
Alien.
We found the death note. Wake up again. I don't have much time. The feds are at my door. Open up. I refuse to take my Nord milk pills. I wake up again. The demon in the corner of my room wants to access my NordVPN. I let him, because I can use it on up to 6 different devices.
Thanks, Nordman.
I know the corporations are building profiles on me. I go to Facebook, I go to Wikipedia, then suddenly I'm getting ads for feet on my Facebook. Big feet, big foot, big pharma. On Tuesday, I saw a red car. Coincidence?
Conspiracy.
Huge deal on a 2-year plan plus 4 bonus months, 4 sides to a triangle. Coincidence? There's a guy reacting to my life in the corner right now. 30-day money-back
That's
guarantee.
me.
What's the goddamn catch? Time's going faster than usual, and only a limited time to get a great deal on a 2-year plan. I wake up again. It's the perfect Christmas present.
Who are you?
Wait a minute. My family died in a suspicious house fire. Skinwalker in my house. Changed location to Finland. Different regions have different prices on plane tickets and hotels. That ain't even a conspiracy. I take more microplastics so I can see through the ether.
We're coming in, Nordman.
Pizza time.
But they're too late. I click Hyperborea and I am untouchable.
Gone.
If you understood anything that happened in this ad, go to nordvpn.com/incognito.
I understood
Get a
everything.
huge deal on a 2-year plan plus 4.
That was
bonus
how a
months.
conspiracy
And
theorist's
over.
brain
All right,
works.
so this one is about how to spot a fake painting. I quite like this section, but it kind of got bogged down by all of its technical information, and it went quite long. So, here it is, for the discerning audience. How to spot a fake painting. Glug, glug, glug. Oh my god. Is that a real Michelangelo?
That's okay.
We're
That
here
is
now.
Mikey.
Quick hypothetical lower tax brackets. If paintings like this one,
I was struggling to remember my turtles for a second there. I was like, is that Raphael holding Mikey's weapon? No, it's actually Michelangelo.
is
Never
that a
mind.
real We're here now. Quick hypothetical lower tax brackets.
I was about to
If
be branded
paintings like this one or
fake
this one
TMNT
go
fan.
for literally gajillions of dollars, that's USD, then what's to stop someone from doing this? Then this, and then this, then this, and then saying it's real when it ain't. You know, faking a painting. Turns out, not much at all. In fact, it can be very difficult to tell these fake-ass paintings from the ones that keep it real. There's a whole-ass art to detecting these fakes, and it's become an arms race, where the authenticators find new ways of detecting, and the fakers find new ways to get around their methods.
Technology's advanced. Do you think that makes it harder to make good forgeries?
Nah, you can beat the forensics.
So, authentication. There are 3 main categories: provenance, connoisseurship, forensics. Let's start in alphabetical order. Provenance. Now, provenance follows the history of the painting, tracking down the previous sellers and the buyers, all the galleries that exhibited it, the hand-to-hand that it was passed through, all the way back to the original painter. However, the older the work, the harder it is, generally, to track the provenance. Take, for example...
Especially when it gets stolen, and then they lose track of the painting after it gets stolen, because they usually, they trade it in the black market. And so by then, it would get mixed up with a bunch of other fakes.
The most expensive painting ever sold, the Salvator Mundi, the final Da Vinci, sold in 2017 for $400 million, and it can only be traced back to 1958. Back then, it was sold for £45. But in the other 500 years of its history,
No way.
no one knew where this thing was. Even today, people still dispute whether it's genuine.
I think it's a real flim-flam. And this
What a
is
bargain,
made-up
45
piece of
pounds?
junk. I think it's fake art news.
Real in drag.
And it turns up in America?
Well, if it's not real, whoever convinced people that it's real and sold it for 400 million is the real winner.
I think we've wished this Da Vinci
Holy.
into existence. Here's the lost Leonardo that somebody once mentioned in a book.
Oh, he's
Provenance has
mad.
gotten a lot easier over time. You used to have to track down books and read catalogs and stuff, but now it's all online. Control plus F, there it is. So you see, kid, there's nothing online. Nothing. Tell me who you bought this from, you son of a bitch. Where did you get this? Tell me the name of the auction house that sold you it. Connoisseurship. Look at the work. Do you believe what you are seeing? How does it look? How does it taste? Are these ballpoint pen strokes those of a master artist? Luckily, there are people like Martin Kemp, who spend their whole careers focusing on single artists.
I've been dealing with Leonardo for, I suppose, about 50 years.
They can pick out the fakes. So, for example, when he was looking at La Bella Principessa, he went, yup, he uses the Trois Crayons. He's a left-handed artist. The
Aw.
proportions of the head and the face are all correct. You know what? I'm going to give this a big rubber stamp right there in the middle of the painting. Confirmed. So, for the fakers, they have to have a keen understanding of who they are copying. One of the
That's
best
crazy.
fakers, Almir de Hore, for example, mastered the brushstrokes of artists such as Matisse, Modigliani, and Renoir so well that hundreds of museums are currently in possession of his works, without even knowing it. Yes, well, Michelangelo was famous for his Cangiante painting techniques, and I can't see any of that here. You're 0 for 2, kid. You're going down. Forensics. This thing's going straight to the lab. You're about to have a paint brush up with the law. Masterpiece? More like you're a real masterpiece. Shit, kid. Fuck you. Alright, now the people that solve murders have really changed the game when it comes to art forgeries by implementing radiocarbon dating.
Carbon dating.
Radiocarbon dating. Carbon dating? Yeah, but it's not serious. Listen, you're made out of carbon, I'm made out of carbon. Paintings are made out of carbon. And when a thing is made out of carbon, there are these unusual isotopes of carbon-14, right? They're floating all throughout the air and the atmosphere.
ADK.
Now, all living things contain a trace of them. They are taken in when something eats, breathes, anything else. And that happens continuously throughout the life cycle. However, when the organism dies, it stops taking in new carbon, right? Which means it stops taking in new carbon-14. Same thing happens to a painting. You've stopped putting paint on the thing, no more carbon. Carbon-14 is an unstable isotope, and it decays at a very steady rate. Poof. It turns into nitrogen-14 and a beta particle.
Beta!
And because these carbon-14 atoms decay at a very steady rate, in principle, you can look at the proportional number of carbon-14 atoms and determine how old something is. More carbon-14, newer painting. Less carbon-14, older painting. In 1985, using this technique, they...
So this is the concept of what we call half-life, which also applies to other radioactive things because they're unstable. And so these particles will usually try to stabilize themselves after depends on the element and the isotope, essentially, where some of them decays at a, what do you call it, at a set at a set time. What are you nerding me about? This is like high school chemistry, all right? So to the people who weren't paying attention, this is how they figure out how old a fossil is. and how they figure out how long it's gonna take until Chernobyl is gonna be safe to go into. So, you know, like all those particles in the air after Chernobyl, they figure out how long until those particles become stable and stuff like that. And so that's why they're able to predict or tell when a nuclear fallout is going to be safe afterwards. So also, this also works for, again, fossils, and in this case, paintings. And that's how they check how old something is. But I think there's a way to fake it. Essentially, is how forgeries try to get around carbon dating. But I'm not sure if that's like a widely accessible thing for them to do. But we'll see. It's definitely done more. What do you call that? Research.
Older painting. In 1985, using this technique, they caught a guy, Robert Trotter, who forged a Sarah Hahn painting. Ah, far too many carbon-14 atoms. Lock 'em up, boys. But there are even simpler methods of testing the age of a pigment. 3 Jackson Pollock paintings were found to be fake when it was determined that the pigments on the canvas weren't sold until the 1960s. But Pollock was dead by 1956. Nowadays, there are huge pigment libraries that can be easily cross-referenced. So that shows the year a pigment was first introduced and what year it stopped being used. For example, anything that has titanium white has to have been produced in the last 80 years. I'm going to be honest with you, kid. Michelangelo never used the yellow Crayola. X-rays. Now, you can...
Oh yeah, another thing with colors is depending on how well the painting is taken care of, some colors will degrade, especially when it's like facing the sun for a long period of time. So if you guys notice some things like paper, for example, if it's constantly being bathed by sunlight, it will yellow and stuff. Also with exposure to the atmosphere and the stuff that's in the air. And so that's why stuff will yellow, stuff will degrade. And you can also check age through just that. So if you guys have like an expensive painting, you should try to take care of it by making sure it's isolated from the sun, most especially. And if you're able, make it so that it's not exposed to open air.
Years. I'm going to be honest with you, kid.
Like, so that's why some museums, they have these paintings in climate-controlled enclosures and stuff like that.
I'm going to be honest with you, kid. Michelangelo never used the yellow Crayola. X-rays. Now, you can blast this thing with some radiation and look behind the painting to see what's underneath. For example, did the artist do a sketch first? Maybe this is painted over something else. If you look behind the Mona Lisa, you can actually see that she had a much larger head once, although maybe it just shrunk with age. And you can see that veil much more easily. Also, if you X-ray even further, you can see her fully formed skeleton. But the art forgers of today are a wily bunch. Forgers can source old canvases from the correct period. They can use error-matching pigments. Even the carbon dating can be a bit unreliable. Heck, even the X-rays can be bullshitted, as forgers take into account that their work will be X-rayed.
Yeah, so, yeah, there is a way to get past carbon dating. And then there's also a way to get around color accuracy, I guess, because they can also try to, like, age it artificially.
As they do a sort of fake painting or sketch first, and then paint the next version on top. All right, kid, I'll give you $20,000 for this, or a shiny new bottle of Ritalin. Works every time. This section is about Shakespeare. Wow, that would make so much sense for it to be in the theatre video on the main channel. This...
Yeah, I thought... I was kind of sad. I thought we were going to be fully done after that art part. Because art is really interesting to talk about, especially when it comes to these, like the preservation of art and stuff like that. I don't actually remember how I got all this info that I was telling you guys. Safe to say, I definitely had a phase back then where I looked into a lot of this. And it's just now
showed up
coming
and
up to the
changed
surface.
The game. Shakespeare. Here's the thing though. We basically know nothing about him.
All trees are 50%
Well, I do know he has a wife named Anne Hathaway.
First, we don't know what he looked like. There are two best guesses. One is from this engraving on a first folio, but that wasn't put together until...
Random YouTube vids, probably? No. That knowledge I was telling you guys was before I started watching YouTube essays, probably from all the books I was reading.
First, we don't know what he looked like. There are two best guesses. One is from this engraving on a first folio, but that wasn't put together until 7 years after he was already dead. One of his peers, Ben Jonson, knew him though and said, yeah, it's pretty close. So maybe. The second is a bust that was made for his grave. There are a bunch of others, but they weren't commissioned by Shakespeare himself. They weren't done while he was alive, and he didn't exactly stop to
But one thing they always seem to get is that he's a balding man.
This includes Chandos, which is probably the most recognizable. So this could be him, or this could be some completely other dude, or it could be an idealized version. Now, we also don't know exactly when he was born.
They know his balding for sure.
Or how he died. His birthday is celebrated on the 23rd of April, but there's no record of that. And then he died on the 23rd of April as well. So he died on his birthday? Odd coincidence. But we know that he did marry a lady named Anne Hathaway. Yes, same as Catwoman, but this one was the original. We also don't even really know how to spell his name. There are tons of different signatures by him, but they're practically all spelt differently. And let's not even get started on the conspiracies of whether or not he really wrote his plays. The son of two illiterate parents from a lower-class neighborhood suddenly becoming the world's greatest playwright? Bit suspicious. Also, whether he was gay, or worse, whether he was foreign, or
a time traveler.
With his grave. So if you go to the Holy Trinity Church in Stratford, there is his grave. There he lays, but there is an engraving above him. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he who moves my bones. Cursed, you see. You're not allowed to dig him up. So everyone is super spooked out by the curse, and they refuse to dig him up. So archaeologists instead have done radar scans. Turns out, his head is missing. He was grave robbed in 1794. So we can't even reconstruct him that way. And they won't open it up for DNA tests. So it's likely that we will never know the truth. The government is hiding something. The point is, Shakespeare stole a theatre at one point. Okay, quick Shakespeare moment. In 1599, Shakespeare was working as a playwright with his acting troupe called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. Now, they were leasing out a theatre in Shoreditch called the Theatre. Creative name. Anyway, they had a disagreement with the landlord, Giles Allen. Giles revoked their lease. Shakespeare and the Chamberlain's Men were not very happy about that, but they had no option but to walk away. But a few days later, in the dead of night, they came back. Now the group met up just outside the theatre, and they had bribed the watchman to look the other way. Then, with daggers and tools in hand, they broke into the theatre. Now they weren't there to kill Giles, and they weren't there to steal stuff from the theatre. No. They were there to rob the theatre. They tore down the entire building, piece by piece, and they started carting it away to a warehouse.
Oh, they stole the entire thing. What the fuck?
Across the Thames and over to Southwark. With the materials that they stole, they constructed the Globe Theatre. And there it stood for the next 14...
It's the ship of Theseus, but... they disassembled the entire ship and put it in another ocean.
...years until it burnt down. Whoops.
That's
There was a
crazy.
performance of Henry VIII, and a prop cannon was involved. Don't worry about that. but then it was rebuilt. But then in 1642 it was shut down again. But in 1997, a recreation of the Globe Theatre was made once more, and in London you can visit it today, as long as you can avoid being stabbed.
Was the
And
theater
now for
actually the
best
theater?
section of all.
Come on, people, we're ready to shoot. Where's the pizza box with the hole in it?
Oh, never mind, that's my cue. I gotta go. Catch you soon. Don't forget NordVPN.
Catch you soon. Zap. Nice. That was a very good video. I love the technical aspect. I like technical aspects. Except for if it's esports. Technical aspects of esports are whack. That shit's boring. Give me the cool stuff like the arms race between forgeries and spotting the forgeries. That's cool.